The impact on ourselves of contact with another intelligent civilization, how it might come about and what the effects might be, is now being discussed by serious thinkers the world over.
It is now okay to talk about life elsewhere or intelligent life elsewhere, whereas a decade or two ago it wasn't okay. It was considered too speculative to be worth any investment of time.
I think there's no question but that we live in an inhabited universe that has life all over it.
What I'm imagining is the facts that I've just stated becoming generally known, so that people know that out there is a million other civilizations. They all look fabulously ugly, and they're all a lot smarter than us.
Russ, look.
The same kind of thing that's watched us since the beginning of the project.
Ooh.
A new age is dawning, an era of awakening. Each passing day witnesses more eyes opening to the reality of unidentified aerial phenomena. As reports flood in from across the globe, CE5 teams gather, their gazes fixed skyward, seeking contact. Yet, as the year draws to a close, the celestial canvas remains shrouded in mystery at present. The more we observe, the more questions arise. The whispers of extraterrestrial visitors grow louder, but concrete answers remain elusive. Humanity stands on the precipice of understanding, yet the universe holds its secrets close, leaving us to wonder what the new year and this new age will ultimately reveal. In late 2024, a surge of unidentified aerial phenomena began to be reported across the globe. This new wave of sightings was notable for several key characteristics that distinguished it from previous UAP events. One of the most striking aspects of the 2024 sightings was the apparent origin of these objects. Many reports indicated that the UAP emerged from the ocean, suggesting a possible underwater or undersea base of operations. This theory was further fueled by reports of similar UAP sightings by naval vessels in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Another significant feature of the 2024 UAP wave was the object's apparent interest in nuclear facilities. Multiple sightings were reported over or near nuclear power plants and weapons storage sites. This raised concerns about potential espionage or surveillance activities by unknown actors. The behavior of the UAP themselves also contributed to the intrigue. Witnesses described objects exhibiting flight patterns and speeds far beyond the capabilities of known aircraft or drones. Some reports even mentioned the UAP causing electronic interference or disruptions, such as power outages or communication blackouts. The 2024 UAP wave sparked a renewed interest in the phenomenon among the public, media, and government officials. While some speculated about extraterrestrial origins, others suggested more mundane explanations such as advanced military technology or foreign surveillance drones. However, the lack of definitive answers and the continued reports of unusual activity kept the mystery alive. In our quest for understanding, we consulted an individual highly recommended by those experienced in CE5 protocols.
There's this whole adventure that we're going through, you could say, and it is to see what's going on and try and understand it as best we can, you know. And what I think is good to look at is how that it's quite varied. We get quite a mixed bag of results doing what we've been doing. We have at times whatever we see or whatever's happening, it's pretty clear, you know, it's just pretty straight ahead. Doesn't mean we understand everything about it, but it's fairly clear. And then we have situations where very interesting, but we don't really know what's going on. Like, and then there's this drone stuff, you know.
Well, there's the catch, my friend. Some of it I can talk about, and some of it I won't talk about. But and Dr. Greer's spoken about this. A number of people have spoken about this. Everybody has an opinion on it, right? I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 opinions out there flying around at any one time, right? Here's what I will tell you that I know. Having worked with Dr. Greer for those years, I am well aware and pretty well schooled in different advanced technologies that exist on this planet at this moment. Some of them are decades old, and so they're very far along in their development, especially when it comes to flying craft. Ships of all types, not just planes, not just drones, but actually saucers that fly around that may look like everybody in the world would think that it was an ET craft, and they're not. They're man-made. And so what is out there that is man-made and can be used for all manner of things? It can be used to surveil, right? These can be surveillance. It can be used as a tool for false flags. It can be used to frighten people. It can be used these can be used to gather information. So there's that we have going on there. And believe me, when you say the thing's coming out of the water, a long time ago, they had drones that can come out of submarines and can come out of the water, that are man-made and can do all kinds of things that you wouldn't believe. Anything that you can imagine, like Ben Ridge said, anything from Star Wars, we've already had. We've already done. Been there, done that. All of that technology that you see on all of those shows already exists somewhere here. It's, you know, my feeling and a lot of others that the reason those are in all those movies is kind of to get you used to it, right? So there's that going on. There are also people who have their own little drones and want to be part of who think it's going to be cool to put their drones up with everybody else's drones. And so you're going to have that, right? You're going to have some of that as well. And then there can be other. And that other, there could be other, and they could be used that could be surveillance as well. That's all I can say about that one. So a lot of it's going to be man-made. And people just think, oh, no, we don't have that. Oh, we most certainly do have that. Most certainly do. Anyone who went to the Washington, D.C. press club event that Dr. Grid did a couple of years ago, there was a craft discussed there by one of the whistleblowers that had a skin that looked like fur. And he said, literally ran his hand, it would almost look like fur that stood up. It almost sounded like it was purring. He thought it was like a cat. Now, to people on this planet, that would absolutely, they would say, oh my God, that is absolutely an ET craft. And it is absolutely not an ET craft. It is absolutely not. There are all kinds of developments and technologies out there for the skins of craft. Anti-grav has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades on this earth. Defense contractors, military, that kind of thing. The humming, that humming or purring that he thought he heard, I mean, this is all part and parcel of man-made stuff. It's not at all surprising. Those skins on the craft are for all kinds of things. You can look it up. You'll find lots of stuff online about smart skins. That's what I would say about the drones. I would say to people, you know what? Observe it, see what happens, see what occurs over the next few months, next year or so. But don't go down all the rabbit holes that are online, because everybody in the world is pontificating about what this is or isn't. And I listen to them, and I actually have to turn them off. It's so disturbing to me to hear some of the leaps that are made here. People thinking it's all ET, or it's this ET, or it's that ET. And I'm thinking, yeah, you have no idea. And if you don't know, you shouldn't say. That way you don't confuse people. I think there's a lot of confusion. I think it frightens people. And one of the biggest ways to control people on this planet is to frighten them.
when you had the thing with the helicopter. Um, it's very interesting, but what was that for sure? Don't really know. So have some ideas, some theories, but it also hooks in really nicely with what went on with Holly, because it's could be similar.
We had a pretty large yellow flash bulb, yellowish orange, that was directly over you. North, yeah, probably about what? About, I don't know, 56, 55 degrees.
Like you have a military helicopters, maybe it's a military helicopter and it's flying all around. And what's it doing there? Why did it show up when you're doing like a CE5? And why was it there for so long? I don't know. But Holly had a similar situation, except we have some more evidence. We have the video of the darting orbs there, and her testimony of how that jet came in and came down way low at her house. It's pretty interesting. We could look at that.
It was a first for me to be visited with the jet, just gosh, right at my treetops. And I have a really large tulip poplar tree, and it was right on top of it. It really, really rattled me. Yeah. The video clip was recorded April 27th, which was a Saturday night. And Saturday night, about dusk, I did play some crop circle tones, and I did some of the basic meditations, like guided meditations. But after that, I just kind of zoned out in my chair, had a little backyard fire going, and I was just relaxing. I had just gone in more into just meditation and not guided meditation. And so my eyes were closed. I was completely gone. I mean, when I get into a flow state, I just slip away. And she, I think, had gotten off of work and probably home, I don't know, 9ish or so. And she reaches out to me about a little after 10. And she basically just asked if I had bought spotlights and if I was playing around with them. And I said, well, no, I haven't bought any spotlights. I'm just actually in meditation out here, not really doing anything. And she's like, are you not seeing all this activity over your house? And I'm like, well, no, my eyes have been closed. So at that point, it had ceased, and I wasn't, I didn't see anything that night. But she had, y'all seen those recordings with we have like a little golden looking orb that I call Zippy. I used to see something similar to that a lot here last summer, just zooming around and, tree level sometimes way up in the, sky, usually coming out of the Butez constellation area, in and out of that area, popping in and out. And then behind the clouds, was really what caught my attention too, was just, you had 2 lights, sometimes 3 lights or so, kind of coordinating with each other and either crossing or kind of paralleling. I haven't seen that type of here or any of my CE5 events, like that. And so I was just kind of just watch the video. I was like, wow. And that was pretty much it for Saturday night. Now, Wednesday night, May 1st, is, I kind of set the intention. I started Crop Circle Tones broadcasting right at dusk, and just let those play for probably solid 30 minutes. And I did do maybe one of the pujas, went into a guided meditation. And right around 9 o'clock, I was in the chair, and I just opened my eyes and I looked back and I saw 2 golden orbs. I'm facing west. They were just overhead, but just a little bit east. And it's literally within seconds, I was looking at those orbs and I just hear this loud, I mean, I couldn't even tell you what it was. It was just so loud, rumbling coming in. And all I saw was metal overhead. And I couldn't even make out what I was seeing until this jet passed. And it was so low, I thought, oh gosh, it's crashing. And it's literally heading toward the direction where Felicia lives and my brother lives, and that part of the property. So, you know, I was completely panicked. Now, gosh, I wish I had my psionics just up and recording, and I had it right beside me. I did not think it ought to pick it up. And then I noticed this jet kind of do a C-turn, come back toward my property, but it went across the street, it dropped even lower across the field. It's like a hayfield across the street. And it really went low. It kind of rocked a little bit back and forth like this. It didn't land. And then, you know, I felt a little bit of the orange afterglow, which John told me was afterburners, you know, and then took off east from what I could see. As soon as the jet was out of sight, I was still looking east with my jaw basically on the ground. And two golden orbs popped back into view just over the hayfield. And they're lower than the typical commercial flight path. And they were probably in view for about 10 seconds and they slowly faded out. And I see the type of orb activity.
The orbs were not in flight path, you say? Of course. Well, they're orbs, you know, they can be anywhere, right?
Right, right.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And so, and of course, I was super just startled, rattled, excited. And I was calling Felicia. I was like, you know, and are you outside? Are you outside? Did y'all hear that? And she's like, I don't know what she was doing. She didn't hear it, but my brother's in the background. He's like, yeah, did you hear a military jet or fighter jet fly over? I said, I didn't just hear it. I literally watched it and it was so close. I couldn't even make out what it was until it was passed overhead because it was that close. I couldn't get the outline of a jet or a plane.
I just think that the video of the darting orbs, that's what I'm calling them right now, because they move pretty fast, is pretty spectacular. And I've frankly never seen anything quite like that in all the ET stuff I've looked at. Nothing zipping around so fast and almost going here and going there. And then sometimes it's in the clouds and it's diffusing in the clouds and then it comes out of the clouds. It's very interesting. I mean, if I was the military, watching radar around everywhere and I saw something like that, I could see them going, we have to dispatch a jet over there and see what's going on, because they do that kind of thing with Dr. Greer's stuff.
The UFO phenomenon extends beyond mere physical sightings, often intertwining with profound experiences of consciousness alteration. For some, contact with purported extraterrestrial intelligence isn't a distant observation, but a deeply personal, even transformative event. Within this context, the role of meditation and altered states of consciousness becomes a significant area of inquiry. Many contact experiencers report a period of heightened awareness or altered perception preceding, during, or following their encounters. These states often resemble those achieved through deep meditation practices. This suggests a possible link between expanded consciousness and receptivity to the UFO phenomenon. Perhaps a quieted mind, less cluttered with the noise of daily life, becomes more attuned to the subtle energies or frequencies that facilitate such experiences. Furthermore, some researchers propose that contact might not always be a purely external event, but rather an interaction occurring, at least in part, within the realm of consciousness itself. Meditation as a tool for exploring the inner landscape could then be seen as a means of preparing oneself for such encounters, or even facilitating them. By delving into the depths of their own minds, individuals may be opening a channel for communication beyond the limitation of ordinary perception. While the precise nature of these connections remains speculative, the recurring theme of altered consciousness and contact narratives that deserve serious attention. The exploration of meditation and similar practices within the context of UFO research offers a potential avenue for understanding not only the phenomenon itself, but also the untapped potential of human consciousness. It suggests that the search for extraterrestrial life may, in some ways, be intertwined with a journey into the uncharted territories of our own minds.
You know, some of this goes way back to when I was young, really pretty young. I kind of was on a spiritual path back then. And it was clear that this was not going to be just like an ordinary journey. And then in about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I watched Unacknowledged. And so before that, I was doing meditation, a lot of meditation. I started meditating when I was about 12 or 13. So I'm a long-time meditator. And I came about that not through any religion or groups. I was pretty ADD, so I spent some time in my room, as most kids with ADD will tell you that they do. And you know, I've had a book on meditation and yoga and one on consciousness. Somehow I had a copy of the Tao Te Ching that I started reading by Lao Tzu, and I read that, and so that kind of put my foot on that path. And then about 7 years ago, when I watched Unacknowledged, I thought, wow, this guy is doing stuff with disclosure and making contact with other species, and I knew that this was true. I mean, there was not a question in my mind at all that you know that there is other life in the universe. There's tons of life in the universe, right? And I mean, it didn't make any sense to me even as a child that there would only be humans on Earth. Just didn't make any sense at all. So I watched that, and I remember thinking, you know, I think I've heard of this guy, but I you know, I hadn't seen much on him. And I watched that movie, and the minute that movie was over, I went right to the computer and I sat down and I typed him an email, and I said, I don't know when the next one of your things is, but I'd like to attend. And they had one that was coming up, but it was already full. And she said, well, the next one, we'll send you a link as soon as we put it up. And it was actually in Texas, where I was living at the time. And so it was like 3 hours from where I was living. So it was very, you know, no coincidence here, right? And I went to that first CE5 with Dr. Greer. His wife was there. There were about 30 people at this one. And it was up at Enchanted Rock, which is out north of Fredericksburg, Texas. And I signed up for that, and then I thought to myself, oh my God, have I lost my mind? What? I'm gonna go to something with 30 people I've never met and sit out there into the stars and make contact with ETs. These people could be totally crazy. I mean, I was like, oh, what am I doing? And yet, you know, there was just something that drove me to do it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to check all that at the door, and I'm just going to go with an open heart and think, you know, at the very least, I'll meet some very interesting people, and who knows, maybe I'll make some new friends. We'll see what happens. And I went to that first CE5, and holy smokes, from the very first night, I mean, things started happening, and I was like, okay, so you know what? This is real. This is real. And oh my God. I mean, I saw the very first night, we were all sitting up on top of a porch at this place. And there were, like I said, there was like 30 of us. And Dr. Greer's talking, and it's like, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night. And we're all sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm having heart palpitations, like, you know, like when your heart takes a couple extra beats. And I'm like, I've had that before. I mean, everybody's had a little bit of that, right? So, but all of a sudden it wouldn't stop, and it kept going. And I thought, oh man, here I am, 30 people. I'm having a heart attack or something. And the only saving grace is that Greer is an ER doctor, right? I mean, I'll at least survive this, right? If anything horrible happens. And he said, no, that's because I put my hand up. I said, look, I hate to do this, but you know, I'm having this heart thing, and I've never had this before, and I'm not really sure what's happening. And he said, oh, that's the ETs. He said they kind of go around and if it's somebody that they don't know and they've never met before, if you're new, they check you. They'll check you out, sort of like it's like using like a meter from Star Trek, checking your frequency. I'm like, seriously? He's yeah, and about 4 people right adjacent to me all put their hands up and said, I'm having exactly the same thing, only I didn't want to say anything. So here we all are having the same experience, right? And this is the first night. And all I can say is that was the beginning. I saw the largest craft I've ever seen in my life on that trip. I started really communicating with ETs, which, I mean, really the whole thing astounded me. I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting to go and meditate and listen to Dr. Greer speak and learn from him and see what all this was about. And I had some of the most profound experiences. And I thought, wow, this is real. And okay, now I need to look at this seriously, because it was no longer just a belief that we were not alone in the universe, and that there are beings here and that you can communicate with them. It became an absolute knowing, without a question of a doubt. Boom, done. And that I had already been studying consciousness for quite a while. I had already been studying meditation. But I will tell you, through these beings, I started really getting educated. We call them downloads. You can call them insights. You can call them listens. But whatever it is, you're being educated by them in a way that is very interesting. It's very clear. When you're getting a message from them or a download, there's no question in your mind that you are getting it. Not for me, anyway. I've had profound experiences. I've been on a craft. I've been different places. And I did this work with Dr. Greer for about 7 years. I left about last year. It just was time for he's really on the path of disclosure. That's really, and he's done 30 years of that. And due to him doing that, honestly, it has brought this world much further along, I think. Disclosure for sure. And he's dedicated 30 years of his life to this. So, but my path is really consciousness, educating people about consciousness, what it is, meditation and meditation techniques, teaching kind of about frequency and energy, and what this universe is. And one of the messages that I got from the ETs in the very beginning was, whatever we give you, it's not for one person, ever. It's for more than one person. It's for everyone. And so whatever you're given, you need to share. And I was perfectly fine with that. And that's what I've done the whole way through. Yeah. How is consciousness a part of all this? This is actually all a part of consciousness. It's the other way around. Consciousness is everything. This entire universe is consciousness. It is energy. It is frequency. It is frequency. It is density. It is vibration. That's what it is. The entire universe is consciousness. And so that's how important that is. CE5 and our contact, our ability to try to contact them, or want to try to contact them, begins through consciousness. It is through consciousness and through working to establish, to understand your own consciousness and to raise your consciousness. Basically, what you're trying to do is raise your frequency. The higher your frequency is, the easier it is for you to contact these beings and for them to communicate with you. Everything is consciousness. This is how we communicate with them. People think that they're going to land somewhere and they're going to get out of the ship like in, the day the earth stood still, and they're going to be talking English. That's not how it works. They are telepathic. You will hear them in your language, but they're not going to land and be speaking German or French or Japanese or Chinese or Russian. I mean, if you're in Russia, and they land there and you're having a conversation with an ET, you're going to understand what he's saying and the concepts through your own language, your own interpretive abilities of your consciousness. But they are telepathic. It's how we communicate with them and how they communicate with us, which is why having a regular meditative practice and developing that is so critical to contact work. When you meditate, meditation, by the way, is not the goal. It's a tool. People think that they'll learn to meditate and then that's it. Then they've done it. No, meditation is a tool. It is not the goal. It is a tool so that you can learn through meditation to still your mind, to hear, to focus. Human beings, most of them are very poor at focus. And I can tell you and put my hand up for that one. And it requires practice. And that's what meditation is. It's a way to entrain your mind to be quiet, to learn to be quiet, to learn to be focused. Some meditations are goal-oriented. I do a lot of meditations that are forgiveness meditations or gratitude meditations or love meditations. And some are quiet, where I'm just receiving rather than sending. When you're sending, you're not receiving. And so it's important to do both. And when you're sitting quietly, this is when you can begin to really get some true insights from them and from some messages from them. Meditation and, to me, contemplation to me is very similar to meditation and nearly as important, because in contemplation, you're kind of thinking about something. And during your thought process, you're on a neural pathway thinking about something. And for these beings, it is very easy when you're in that state to give you insights. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there thinking about something and contemplating it. And all of a sudden, you have this amazing new insight of something you'd never known before. And people say, well, I thought about that. I said, really? Did you know it 10 minutes before? Because if you didn't know it 10 minutes before, I can guarantee it didn't come from you. Yeah, it's usually an insight from these beings. And this is one of the ways that they are very helpful. But you need to be able to be quiet during those times, right? Even if you're contemplating. You know, Socrates, Aristotle, these philosophers knew something about this. I thought to myself, no wonder they did so much contemplation. Yeah. So meditation is the tool, and I think it's critical that people begin a meditative practice. They don't have to do it for long. They can start with 5 minutes and work up. Do it once a day, but it's less important how they do it. You know, people get all kind of into the whole different, we have to sit this way, you have to hold your hands this way, and you have to have your eyes this way, and you've got to be so and so. And really, none of that is really true. In order to do meditation, find a comfortable position. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. There are many different breathing techniques. There are many different techniques to meditation. I tell people, try them all. Try all of them. Find which one works for you, and then do it. It's less important how you do this, but it's more important that you do it.
Under the velvety expanse of the night sky, the CE5 group convened once more on November 6, 2024, their hearts set on establishing contact with our cosmic neighbors. Mark Hagerling, a familiar presence, guided the evening's endeavors. The session commenced with a sequence of resonant tones, their origins traced to the heart of a crop circle, setting an ethereal ambiance.
Even if they didn't do anything, it just sounds really cool. Y'all know the history of where they came from? So it was recorded in a crop circle in England during the CE5 thing with Dr. Greer. Somebody recorded that, and this actually playing as a redone, cleaned up version.
Okay, so the crop circle tones, there are a number of crop circle tones. There are the CE5. There's the crop circle tones from Colin Andrews. That story, Colin Andrews went into inside a crop circle that had just formed, and he had some recording equipment. He could feel the energy in there, and he recorded that crop circle tone. He recorded that inside the crop circle, and those sounds are just amazing. And we play those sounds. There are a number of tones that we play. Crop circle one is one. We play the Fibonacci frequency, and there's another one that Dr. Greer plays, which is the CE5 tones. But the crop circle tones came from Colin Andrews being inside a crop circle and recording in there. There are, with real crop circles, the ones that are made by ETs, and are there others that people make? Yeah. To me, it's very easy to tell the difference. I mean, truly, it's easy. But there is an energy in those crop circles that, from what people say, is really undeniable. But this is where those came from.
The original, I think the original is actually in the app.
Yeah, the audio's terrible unless they cleaned it up.
Yeah, so somebody did a pretty good job of recreating it. Pretty sure the ETs understand what's going on.
The sonic prelude paved the way for the sacred puja ceremony, a ritual of reverence and connection.
So I thought I'd play a recording of the puja first. We haven't done that a whole lot. Guess you all know. Are you familiar with the puja?
No.
Okay, so Dr. Greer likes to do it at all of his events. It's a very old ceremony, he believes, and it's in Sanskrit, so it's very old. It's so old that he believes it was actually started off planet.
Now, puja. The puja this causes people a lot of angst. First of all, they think that the puja is a religious ceremony. It is not. It is a spiritual ceremony. It is a ceremony that is used by different religions, but it is gratitude. It's a ceremony of gratitude. It's done in Sanskrit. It's spoken in Sanskrit. That language, supposedly, and this is from Dr. Greer and from people that he's spoken to in the work that he's done and others have done, that this was a language that really came from off planet. The puja that we do is called the Guru Puja. And that puja is sort of it's a gratitude to all the different gurus and ascended masters. Okay. And when it's done, we also dedicate this to past ascended masters, current ascended masters, and even future ascended masters. It was originally, that Guru Puja was originally spoken and written by Maharishi. This was a man that Dr. Greer studied with. He studied transcendental meditation when he was probably, I think he was 18 or 19, something like that. And he became a meditation teacher. He learned Sanskrit, and I think he tutored Sanskrit. So that is what the puja is. It's recited in Sanskrit. During the puja, there are different offerings. There's fruit and a candle, there's incense, there's rice, there's water, there's sandalwood. There are a lot of flowers, a lot of different things. And it takes about, want to say it takes between 17 and 20 minutes to do. There are many people who do the puja every day, at least once, in different countries. But we usually do it during the CE5. We try to do it somewhere in the first half of the CE5 because it sets the tone. And I will tell you that every time we do the puja, stuff happens. I've seen some of the most amazing things happen during the puja, after the puja, right before the puja. I've seen things on the puja table, under the puja table, going towards the puja table. I'm telling you, it's really quite amazing. So it's pretty powerful. And the frequency of that puja is very powerful.
Apavitra Pavitrova Sarva Vastangatopiva Yasmare Pundurikaksha
started on its own
Sabaya Vyantara Sushi
when that went off.
Avahanam Narayanam Padma Bhavam Vashishtam.
So what it is it's from the Vedic tradition. So the Vedas are it's the oldest collection of writing on the planet. Originally an oral tradition in Vedic Sanskrit. And then what this particular puja is a word which means ritual, and in this case it's honoring the lineage of the teachers of Advaita Vedanta on back to what you might just call source.
Cool. And Dr. Greer always has this picture on the table, puja table, and it has a whole bunch of different ascended masters on it from different traditions and stuff too. And the ETs apparently are very aware of it, know of it, and all of them I don't know, but certainly some of them, and respect it. That's my understanding from what I've been taught from Dr. Greer. And so we'll just play a recording of Dr. Greer doing the puja, and you can just meditate during that. It's quite short. This is a recording from a CE5 event of him doing it. And don't forget my little dried flower on the table. It's from the puja table when I was in Arizona with Dr. Greer at the event. So brought it here from those years ago when I was there.
As twilight deepened, a small, round object, fleetingly visible on the thermal camera, zipped across the screen. Soon after, the EMF detector shrieked, its alarm piercing the stillness.
Anybody get to do a pre-meditation?
Did.
Inviting them to come this week?
I did. I haven't seen the spot yet other than that.
Oh, yeah.
But I did today. You know, I
just tell
invited.
Them somewhere around here. I hear an
Okay, so my EMF was just going off.
Is it? Got all your equipment away from it? You gotta make sure your phone's not close to it or anything.
My ears were popping when I came down here, which usually means I'm about to experience something.
When your ears are popping?
Yeah, they talk about pressure differences in the environment.
Oh.
Ears were popping for no reason. They don't do that.
Okay.
Except when I had that encounter last time, they started popping.
Huh.
Throughout the remainder of the session, the enigmatic object, visible only on the thermal camera, reappeared multiple times. a fleeting presence darting across the night sky. Its swift, erratic movements were punctuated by sharp turns, defying easy explanation. On one occasion, it seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving observers to ponder its sudden disappearance. To those who might dismiss the sighting as merely a bird, we offer a comparative glimpse, footage of a bat, also filmed that very night. The differences are striking, in size, in shape, and most notably, in speed. Yet, when this new footage is compared to the anomalous recordings from April 6, 2024, a compelling resemblance begins to emerge.
Here's what's the coolest thing that I feel pretty sure about. On the very first, let me go back to it here. On the very first occurrence of the flyby, I'll call
Okay.
for a better term. If I say that, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
There's on my audio, there's another click, you know.
They used to use big spotlights in the 90s. And then use these.
And I wasn't sure because there was also getting, let me see, let me play it right here real quickly. 90s. Use these. Yeah, you know, right on the first one, there's a pop. I mean, this is reminiscent of the sound of the shiny saucer, where as soon as that thing pops out into the sky, there's a pop.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not sure about all this stuff, but I am sure that there's that pop right there. It looks funny on the video because it's like it pops out of the cloud or something, and it pop right there, you know? There's no click or pop with any of the others. It's just that first one.
What can I tell you about the different types of beings? Well, I can tell you that they are very diverse. There are beings that are different sizes, different colors. Some are humanoid, some are not humanoid, some are insectoid, some look like other animals. There are species out there that look like nearly everything you can find on this planet. I have met and conversed with a number of them. There are some that have been on this planet. This always amazes me, really, Chuck, when people say, geez, I don't know if I believe that they're ETs. I said, you don't believe that they're ETs? Okay. There have been 8 ETs on this planet for probably over 18,000 years. Some species. They're here. They've been here. They continue to be here. They are known. They are known of by certain military groups. And so it's stunning to me how secret this has been. This has been kept under wraps for so long, which is such a shame, really. It's made this whole thing of disclosure so much more difficult. It's difficult for them, and it's difficult for us. I've seen, when I was in Joshua Tree, wow. I've seen them on the side, around the circle. There have been a couple that have just been in sort of a very beige colored humanoid look, walking around. When I was in Joshua Tree one year, there was one evening where 5 beings came into my room at about 4 a.m. And when I saw them outside the glass door, I knew immediately that these were beings. And I said, you're welcome to be in the room in any form that you're comfortable with. And they choose what is the safest way for us to view them. It may not be the form that they take in their natural form. These 5 beings were, spheres. Each one was in a sphere that was maybe, 7 or 8 inches in diameter. Looked like a metal, glowing, silvery blue sphere. I've spoken with different ones. I've been on ships. Literally, there was one trip. I know all this is going to sound crazy to a lot of people who don't know anything about this, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, she's totally crazy. But I'm telling you, this is just as real as it gets, people. Being out there at a structure, that time I was not allowed to see their faces. I was just allowed to hear the conversations that were going on in that meeting. And at one point I said, I don't understand why I've been brought here and why I'm being allowed to hear this. And they said, well, because you need to take this information back and give it to Dr. Greer. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. That's fine. So, there are many people on this planet who have had interaction with beings. There have been military people who have interaction with beings. Clifford Stone. Do you know who Clifford Stone is? Sergeant Clifford Stone. He died a few years ago here. He was part of a team that was a crash retrieval team. And he was trained in offering emergency medical services to any beings that were still alive. You can get his book. The name of it is called Eyes Only. And he, from a young person, had an ET that he was in contact with. And so the powers that be knew this. And it was one of the reasons why he was picked in the military to be on a crash retrieval team. At that time, they were had medical training for, I think, 6 or 7 different species that they knew were here quite often. And they had medical kits for each one of those types of beings, so that if there were any alive, that they could offer assistance. And he talks about that in his book, what some of them look like. Yeah, so I hope that helps to answer me. Really, there are some that look like cats. There are some that look like humanoids. There are some that look like insectoid beings. But the one thing that I try to remind people is, look, if you understand that every single person on the face of this earth is at their core a divine being, inside there, if you take off all the personality and what people look like or what color they are, how tall they are, or where they live or what language they speak, underneath there you have a divine being, a divine light being. And people do not take that next step to understand that every one of these ETs that you meet or we talk about, or that are out there on their planet or on their ship or in their galaxy or in their solar system, they are exactly the same. Take off that they're a different color, that they look different, that they may look totally different than us. They may have different eyes. They may have a different nose. They may not even have a nose. I mean, they may have different ears, mouths. But if you take all that off, you have a divine being there. And if we could ever get people to bridge this gap where they don't see everyone else as the other, then you remove the division and the separation of people. And then now you have something you can work with. Now you can come to an understanding with others. Now you can begin friendships and communication. And to me, that's one of the big things for CE5. I think it's one of the reasons we do this, to make contact, to establish relationships and friendships, to understand them, and allow them also to understand us, because there are many species that come here that are not quite, they don't quite understand humans very well. They don't understand our emotions. We tend to be very emotional. That can be very threatening for them. You know, we move quickly, and you know, people get startled and they get afraid. So yeah, but we have more in common with all these different species than we have differences, and this I know for sure. Yeah.
Where like some beings are physical, some aren't, you know, and there's a variety of everything. Some don't even appear. They're like an abstract thought, you know what I mean? So it's like you're dealing and encountering anything and everything. It's an infinite universe, so it's like
a quintessential shade of the color blue.
So Dr. Greer spends a good bit of time in his lectures explaining that, the cosmology kind of, for saying that we need to understand that well for when we do CE5, or else so don't be confused. So who's first time at a CE5 event? You are, you first time?
No,
Oh yeah, you were at, of course. It's your first time?
at the CE5, yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're not, it's like you're new to the idea or anything. You just haven't been at it.
Oh, yeah, I haven't been to an event. Right.
An event, yeah. So we talk about in these intro things about the different things that can go on in these events, and one thing is for sure that it's greatly varied.
Okay, well, I would probably have to divide that into two different groups. One would be a group of people who are actively trying to make contact and are doing that on purpose, who are doing the protocols, who are meditating, who are reaching out, who are doing a CTS, which is a coherent thought sequencing, where you're saying, here's where I am. You know, here's our solar system. It's on the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Here's our star. We're on the third planet from the star. I'm in the northern hemisphere. This is what it looks like. This is where I live. That would be one group of people, people who are actively seeking contact. For those people, when they show up, I would say, if you're actively seeking contact, you should do some imaging work first. And imagine, really wrap your head around the fact that they may show up and you've reached out through consciousness and said, I would like to meet you. This is like you going next door to your neighbor's house and knocking on the door and saying, hey, I just thought I'd come over and introduce myself. Okay, well, imagine that you're doing that. And so if they show up, don't completely freak out and go screaming down the street, because this is counterproductive. First of all, they're going to be, believe me, they're going to be running the other way, really. That's how it works. And they don't want to frighten anyone. They don't want to startle people. And then there's the other group where it just spontaneously happens, where they're not out there doing protocols and they're not really trying to make contact, and spontaneously contact happens. Why does that happen? Well, I have some thoughts on it. I'm sure everybody has a few thoughts on it. Some people tend to come to these lives with a little bit more of a consciousness edge, you could call it, right? They come in with a little bit more of a higher consciousness. Or these may be people who are actively, through spirituality, working on their frequency, raising it, and raising it, thoughts of love and compassion and gratitude and friendship and kindness and all the things that we could put under the heading of divine energies. So those people who are working on that have a higher frequency anyway. And they tend to have maybe a little bit more ability to be contacted into contact spontaneously. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like having a radio beacon attached to you and people can see it, right? And so they may see it and say, hey, what is that? Let's go check that out. Or you may be part of the plan. You may have come here as part of the plan of whatever's going on right now. That happens too, right? Now, absent all of that, and there's just this spontaneous thing, it would be very difficult for the average human being to not at the very least be startled, right? Because that's our first thing. We become startled, then becomes fear, and then becomes paralyzed, like, oh my God, what is this? I would say to people, try not to do that, but it's almost impossible for most people not to do that when it's something that they might see it as something threatening. Usually I try to, when I meet people and we're talking about this subject, I'm like, you know what, try to develop a little bit of discernment. And what is discernment? It's sort of like developing a yardstick. And part of what's on that yardstick is stuff that you already know and you're already comfortable with, and you can already feel. Like when you meet someone and they're smiling and you kind of get a feeling like, you know what, that seems like a pretty good person, or I get a good feeling from that person, or a good vibration. Back in the 60s was like all good vibes and stuff. It's that, right? It's kind of developing an ability to feel into energy. And that is what a lot of discernment is about. Everybody listening to this would know that they've met some people and there are red flags. I mean, you know it, you feel it right away. Like, oh, that's a red flag. Okay, well, you might want to say that might not be something you walk towards, right? And that is part of discernment. And so I personally have spent years developing discernment. And I think it's very important. You don't have to be expert at it. You don't have to contort yourself in any kind of way. You don't even have to really take courses on this. You just need to, for a moment, quiet your mind when you're in a situation, if you can, and just look at it for a moment. What do you feel? Do you feel a threat? Do you feel affection? Do you feel friendship? Do you feel something peaceful? These are the kinds of things to begin. People should be doing this anyway, I think. I think they should be doing it in every situation that they're in, on this planet very especially, right? When you meet someone new, it would always be a good idea to kind of feel into that situation, see what you get. And that's how you practice this. And so if somebody has any discernment in a situation that is spontaneous, comes from out of nowhere, if they have the presence of mind to stop for a moment and feel the energy, that's the beginning of discernment in that situation. And if you're meditating, that begins to develop pretty quickly. So that's what I would tell you. I mean, in fear, it's very, very difficult. We had a woman who came to our CE5 in Dallas-Fort Worth. And we, before we did the CE5, the week before, people were asked to meditate, do some, sorry, I have a dog walking around here. Come on, go sit down. To have, sit and meditate and do CTS and kind of reach out and say, this is where we're going to be on Saturday night between these hours. And so there was one woman who was doing that. I have to watch my time here, but there was one woman who was doing that like Thursday night or something, and she's meditating. And she goes to sleep and she gets up at like 3 a.m. and to go to the bathroom, she comes out and there are 3 ETs standing in her hallway. And they said, we saw your energy earlier tonight and we thought we'd come see what this is about. And she said, oh, no, you have the wrong night. It's not tonight, it's next Saturday. I was like, and that's what you said? I was like, oh, wow. It was really very funny. She said she was really startled, and they said, we're sorry, we didn't mean to startle you. We just thought I guess they could see her energy signature. And they thought they'd come check it out. And they said, we're sorry to startle you. We didn't mean to startle you. And she said, no, I'm not afraid. She said, I just was startled. And yeah, I was doing that to let you know that we're going to do that on Saturday, and not here, somewhere else. And I said to her, and then what? So then she got extremely tired. She said she got so tired she couldn't keep her eyes open. And typically that happens often in contact experiences. You can be very tired and go to sleep. The time that they were in my room in Joshua Tree, I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed looking at these 5 beings, and I'm like, holy cow, like, wow. And I was, of course, honored to have them in there. And then the next thing you know, I'm so tired I can't keep my eyes open. I literally could not stay awake. And the next thing you know, I'm waking up. It's the next morning. I'm in my bed. I have no idea how I got there. I'm actually in my bed. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I fall asleep? How could I possibly have done something like that? With 5 beings in my room, what an opportunity. And what, I didn't get to ask them anything? I didn't get to ask them anything talking about? Oh my God. And then I stood up and I took a couple steps, and I realized that my knee was fixed. I'd had a bad knee since I was 15. I was like, oh my God, now I get it. And of course, I went out, and Dr. Greer, we were all sharing a house with Dr. Greer, and I said, oh my God, you can't believe what happened. I said, I fell asleep, and said, and then I get up and my knee's fixed. He says, well, you didn't fall asleep, Pat. They anesthetized you so they could fix your knee. I'm like, and thank you, God. So, yeah, what she experienced is fairly common sometimes. That's a technology. And actually, it's a technology now that we also have. That technology exists on this planet. I know people are going to look at me and say, oh, yeah, no, I can tell you that it is. It's but on this planet, it's weaponized. It's kind of called neural consciousness weaponry. But
I just think we're in a spot where it looks like something's going to happen. Kinetic in a good way.
Now there's no going back. People say, well, I said, look, let me just tell you something about this path and this journey. First of all, the path is very straight and narrow. Okay, it's easy to get bumped off of it by going down rabbit holes that you're going to find online everywhere. So I always caution people, be careful about the rabbit holes. There's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of disinformation out there, a lot of it. I find few people who really understand this and have taken the time to be exact about it. But I also tell people, look, once this door is open, there's just no closing it. It just doesn't work that way. Once the door is open and you're awake, then it begins. The most important thing on the planet, on the face of this planet, the most important thing that anybody on this planet can do, because people say, well, how can I help? I'll tell you how you can help. You don't have to do anything huge. You don't have to do anything massive. You don't have to become some big guru of something. What you need to do is work on yourself. What you need to do is understand consciousness, meditate, raise your frequency, raise your consciousness. That is what you're here for anyway. And if you do that, you help every single person on this planet. You help the entire planet. You help everybody, including yourself. So that is what I would say. Do not forget that. And it is the simplest. None of this, the most profound things in life are always the simplest. And they're that way for a reason, so that we can actually do this, right? Meditate, raise your frequency, become a more loving person, monitor your thoughts, Monitor your words that come out of your mouth. Every word has a frequency. Every thought has a frequency. If you're thinking good thoughts and loving thoughts and kind thoughts, they go out everywhere across this entire planet, and they go out past the planet into the solar system, into the universe. They keep on going. They're still out there going somewhere. Same thing with negative thoughts. So monitor your thoughts. Do positive thoughts. If you find you're doing a negative thought, stop and think a positive thought. Begin to understand consciousness and raise your frequency. Monitor your thoughts. You know what? That old Beatles song, all you need is love, love is all you need. It is the single most important frequency on this planet. And it is the one that everybody overlooks. It's the one everybody overlooks. It is the single most important one. That's what I would say. It's very simple. Start today. If you do it, it'll help everybody. Yeah.
As we've explored the compelling evidence surrounding CE5, a profound truth emerges. Consciousness may well be the key not only to understanding the UFO phenomenon, but also to unlocking the vast potential within ourselves. The experiences shared, the data collected, all points towards a connection between our inner world and the mysteries that lie beyond. The journey of CE5 is more than just a search for extraterrestrial contact. It's a journey of self-discovery, a quest to raise our individual vibrations and contribute to the collective consciousness of humanity. As we stand on the threshold of a new age, a dawn in human history unlike any we've known, let us continue to explore, to connect, and to expand our awareness. For in doing so, we not only reach for the stars, but also delve into the very depths of what it means to be human, ready to embrace the unknown with open minds and open hearts.
In shadows deep he wanders lost, through whispers of a time long gone, secrets buried beneath the frost. His heart beats while lit by the dawn. Scrolls of old with ink still dry, mystic symbols guide his way. Stars align beneath the sky. Night turns into broken day. Ancient ones awaken now. Speak your answers loud and clear. Heroes rise, won't break a bow, facing all he's learned to fear. Through caves of dark he seeks the light. Eyes of stone won't turn away. And echoes call in the silent night. He draws his sword and starts to pray. Dust and bones of ages past, graveyards of forgotten dreams. Bound in fate his die is cast, reality split at the seams. Ancient ones awaken now. Speak your answers loud and clear. Heroes rise, won't break a bow, facing all fight. Eyes of stone won't turn away, and echoes call in the silent night. He draws his sword and starts to pray. Dust and bones of ages past, graveyards of forgotten dreams. Bound in fate, his die is cast. Reality split at the seams. Ancient ones awaken now. Speak your answers loud and clear. Heroes rise, won't break about. Facing all he's learned to fear. Nothing fear. Learn to fear. Learn to fear. Learn to fear.